So with our gin, basically there's 10 botanicals in this gin, and the most unique to our gin is Szechuan pepper and oolong tea. A lot of gins out there, sometimes you'll hear someone, they'll say, oh, I don't like gin, or I had a bad experience with gin. Usually those people are talking about a London dry style, so it's very juniper forward. All gin has juniper in it. Other than that, you can come up with all your own botanicals. So juniper is the base for all gin, the only commonality. But the London dry style was very heavy juniper. Still a delicious style if you like all types, but when people think of like, oh, some people say it tastes like a Christmas tree or like biting into a pine cone, that's London dry style. And then there's the other style, the new modern gins are very citrus forward. So that might be like Amalfi from Italy, which is delicious, but very lemon forward, or New Amsterdam is very lime forward. And then you have people that are kind of like, well, I don't really want that either. Our gin is kind of a bridge in between both. We are much more of like the Asian vein of like a Roku or Drumshambo. Ours is much more of an earthy gin. So we distill it very similar to a London dry style, but what we do is we take down almost all the coriander, about 75% of the coriander in the traditional London dry style. We replace that with oolong tea. And that tea gives it a much more of an earthy feel, and the Szechuan pepper is still very forward. Now there is still, if you like citrus gins, there's still lemon peel in this, lemongrass for another earthy note. It's just kind of a nice bridge between the classic and the modern. Our head distiller, who did just walk by to pick up one of our delivery orders, and we'll probably say hello to him later. That was his baby. He's been working on this recipe for over 2.5 years. There's a lot of trial and error. I mean, gin is very tricky. There's a lot of chemistry, and with botanicals, they all do different things at different temperatures, at different alcohol proofs, and each botanical is its own thing, so you have to treat it differently. Like the tea, of course, is very delicate, whereas the lemon peel, we can put that in a very high proof before we put it through our still. So Barry really loved a lot of the Asian styles, and he wanted to figure out a way, because one, there's so many gins out there, so many delicious ones, that you really, in the gin world, you have to be unique. You can't just be like, we're a version of this, but maybe not as good, or we're kind of like that, but they're executing it better. Because being a craft distiller, there's a lot of really popular gins that are still very impressive. I mean, the Hendrixes of the world are successful for a reason. One, it's very consistent, which is always hard to do. Every batch could be different. And two, having those unique botanicals, like for them, it was cucumber. Well, we don't really know anybody out there doing the oolong tea. We really loved it. We tried a bunch of different variations. And the neatest thing too about the Szechuan peppers, it comes across much more like a black peppercorn. So you'll get like more of like a Szechuan on the front end, and then the earthiness of the tea is kind of the finish.